Tonight, you should not be outside. Rain falls slowly across the village, cold against stone roads and rotting wooden roofs. Somewhere beyond the fog, a church bell trembles through the darkness. After sunset, medieval Europe becomes something else entirely. Doors close early, candles burn carefully. Families gather beside weak fires while wind slips through cracks in wooden walls. Hunger feels the same in every century. Cold rain feels eternal. You walk carefully through mud that swallows your boots, while distant laughter escapes from taverns. Somewhere else, a woman cries softly beside candlelight. Beyond the village, wolves move silently between ancient trees. Without electricity, darkness becomes absolute. Villages vanish into shadow only hours after sunset. Thieves, disease, desperate men all move within the blackness. Even the wind sounds dangerous at night. During plague years, fear grows worse. Streets empty before sunset. Families lock themselves inside dark homes, while church bells ring endlessly for the dead. Wooden carts collect bodies through muddy roads. Nobody understands how disease spreads, which makes everyone feel dangerous. Every village carries stories whispered beside weak candlelight. Travelers disappearing into forests. Strange lights between trees. Women accused of witchcraft vanishing into the fog. Fear makes every shadow feel alive. Tonight, your lantern burns weakly against the rain. Somewhere nearby, a dog suddenly begins barking into the darkness, then stops. There are no streetlights here, no safety waiting around the corner. If violence finds you during the night, survival depends entirely upon luck. Yet, despite everything, people still live beneath these heavy skies. Lovers meet secretly beside churches. Musicians play inside crowded taverns. Mothers quietly sing children to sleep, while old men stare silently into dying firelight. And above them all, medieval night stretches endlessly across Europe. Cold, wet, silent, waiting. Perhaps that is what still haunts us centuries later. Not only the wars, or plague, or suffering, but the darkness itself. When candlelight disappeared, night reclaimed everything. Forests became oceans of shadow. The unknown felt infinite. So tonight, as rain falls softly against distant rooftops, let medieval Europe disappear once more into fog, quietly, like a lantern fading beside an empty road. Then somewhere beyond the sleeping village, beyond the rain-soaked cemetery and crooked wooden fences, a single light still burns inside the top window of an old stone house. Too late for prayer, too late for visitors, yet the candle refuses to die. Inside, an exhausted monk scratches trembling words onto fragile parchment, while wax drips slowly across his fingers. Outside, thunder rolls above the forest like distant armies crossing the sky. He pauses only once, not to rest, but to listen. Because sometimes, during these endless nights, footsteps can be heard outside monastery walls where no traveler should exist. Slow footsteps, wet footsteps, stopping just beyond the candlelight. Far away, across the continent, another fire burns beside another dying soul. A plague doctor walks silently through empty streets, wearing a mask shaped like a nightmare bird. Rainwater slides from black leather, while the lantern in his hand sways against thick fog. Windows remain shut as he passes. Nobody calls for help anymore. Entire cities have grown too tired to scream. Somewhere above him, a mother quietly presses cloth against her child's burning forehead, while church bells continue counting the dead through the storm. One bell for sorrow, another for fear, another for the terrible understanding that tomorrow will look exactly the same. And still, the forests wait at the edge of every village, ancient, endless, older than kingdoms themselves. Trees twist like blackened ribs beneath moonlight, while unseen rivers whisper beneath frozen earth. Men disappear inside those woods and return different, quieter. Some never return at all. Fireside stories speak of pale figures watching silently between branches, of voices calling travelers deeper into the dark, using the voices of loved ones long buried beneath cold soil. In medieval Europe, the wilderness does not feel empty. It feels awake. Perhaps that is why candlelight mattered so deeply back then. Not merely for warmth, but for defiance. Every tiny flame pushing against an ocean of darkness vast enough to swallow entire civilizations. A mother lighting one final candle beside her sleeping child. A lonely tavern glowing faintly against winter rain. A monk protecting knowledge while kingdoms collapse outside stone walls. Small, fragile lights refusing surrender beneath skies that seem determined to erase mankind completely. And maybe that ancient fear never truly vanished. Even now, beneath electric cities and glowing windows, something inside us still remembers those nights. The instinct to glance toward dark hallways after midnight. The unease of hearing distant footsteps in rain. The strange silence forests carry after sunset. Somewhere deep within modern memory, medieval night still survives. Cold against stone roads, hidden beneath fog, waiting patiently beyond the last flicker of firelight. Night deepens further now. Rain drags itself across rooftops like fingers searching for a way inside. The tavern has gone silent, music drowned beneath exhaustion and wine. Only the wind remains awake, wandering narrow alleyways carrying the smell of wet hay, smoke, and distant graves. Somewhere, a loose shutter slams violently against stone. Then silence returns so suddenly it feels unnatural, as if the village itself is listening. Near the edge of town, an old widow sits awake beside a dying candle. She has not slept peacefully in years. Tonight, she hears slow footsteps circling outside her cottage through the mud, stopping beneath her tiny window. She does not look outside. Medieval people learn early that some sounds are safer unanswered. Instead, she whispers prayers while shadows crawl across the ceiling like black water. Beyond the village gate, the road disappears into wilderness. No guards protect these paths tonight. Merchants clutch knives beneath soaked cloaks while pilgrims whisper prayers through the rain. Sometimes, entire caravans vanish between one town and the next. Later, people find abandoned carts beside forests, wheels broken, supplies untouched, silence hanging strangely between the trees. Deep within those forests, darkness feels alive. Every branch resembles a hanging figure. Every distant sound becomes breathing. Even soldiers fear places like these, because medieval night does not simply hide danger. It transforms imagination into reality. Inside castles, fear wears richer clothing, but sleeps beside the same nightmares. Lords dine beneath candlelight, while servants whisper rumors through cold corridors. Poison hidden inside silver cups. Prisoners disappearing below stone towers. Darkness humiliates everyone equally. And somewhere tonight, beneath a collapsing rooftop at the farthest corner of Europe, a child listens to rain dripping above his bed while wolves howl beyond the hills. He knows hunger already, knows fear. Yet before sleep reaches him, he still imagines warm kingdoms beyond the fog. Medieval life crushes many dreams early, but never fast enough to stop people from dreaming again tomorrow. Then suddenly, the barking begins again. Not one dog this time, all of them. Horses slam violently against stable doors. Candles flicker behind windows as frightened faces appear through wooden shutters. Even the wind seems to stop breathing. Because beyond the fog, someone is walking toward the village. Slowly. No lantern, no horse. Only footsteps echoing across wet stone roads. Closer now. Closer than they should be. And then, beneath trembling church bells and dying firelight, the figure reaches the cemetery and stops.